If you're bored of simple animations and you want to up your prototyping game in Figma, then I'm really excited to show you these 4 awesome techniques that we're going to learn together. There's so much you can do with these to get creative with your own projects, and I've also created a source file for you so that you can design along with me if you want. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, if you downloaded the source file and are working along with me, you're going to see these 4 pages to the left here: line, card swipe, text slider, and headline. These are the 4 techniques that we're going to be learning in this tutorial. So the first one is going to look something like this. It's pretty cool. So you can do this technique with really any type of line or, something like that. So we're just going to learn a pretty simple version, and here is exactly how you do it. So I'm just going to grab my pen tool up here, and I'm just going to create the line that I want to animate first. So I'm going to just put it slightly off the page a little bit. I'm going to make it very squiggly. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, of course, you can always go in and clean things up. So I'm just going to make this feel a little bit more soft and natural. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. We'll do 5 pixels. All right, and now I'm just going to drag it off to the side here. And I'm actually going to make it a component. So Option Command K makes it a component. I'm going to name it line. And then I'm going to create a rectangle, and I'm going to drop it inside of this component. Okay, so now I'm going to make this rectangle the color that I actually want my line to be. So we're going to go over to fill, and I'm actually going to make it like a gradient. So let's see. Well, actually, I don't think we needed a gradient. We'll just do this purple color here. Okay. And then I'm going to make sure that this rectangle covers this whole sort of area here. And I'm going to select both of these layers, rectangle and the vector, and I'm going to do mask. So you can see that made our line purple, and that's really all we need for right now. Okay, now I am going to make a new variant of this. We're going to do plus button there. So we'll go state, start, state, end. Oops. Okay, and now what we need to do is for the start state, we need to bring just the rectangle layer all the way to the top. So I'm not pulling it outside of the frame. You can see I'm making sure that it just goes outside of our line without going outside of this frame so that it stays a part of the component. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'm just going to command click so that I can click on that rectangle mask itself. I can also use my arrows. So I'm just going to arrow until it is just at the bottom here. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to go into prototype mode, and I'm going to create a flow where we're going to go after delay. So after delay, it can be 0 seconds. Change state to end, smart animate, and we can do, let's try 3000 milliseconds. We'll see how that looks. Smart animate and ease out should be good. And then we're just going to do the same thing here. Ease out. Oh, after delay, 1 millisecond. Okay. Now I'm going to go back into design mode, and I'm going to copy and paste this right onto here. I'm going to make sure it's anchored at the top, and we'll send it to the back with the left bracket. And now let's preview this and see what it looks like. There we go. Pretty cool. The only thing is it's going in front of here. So when I sent it to the back, that did not exactly work. There we go. all the way to the back. Let's make sure that worked now. There we go. That's pretty cool. And you could play around with the Smart Animate. You could do like ease in and out. You could make it like bounce and things like that. You could make it really slow or really fast. But that is how you do the line animation. Next, we're going to do a card swiping animation. So for this example, we're going to pretend that we designed an app where you answer a questionnaire and then this app recommends some books for you to read. And you can read them right there on your phone. So this is going to be that screen. So what I have is this sort of skeleton for it with a little heading and then your CTA. And I also have these cards that represent books. So it has a little image, title, author, a description, and then the sort of genre of the book. So what we want is for maybe this app came up with 4 recommendations for our user, and we want the user to be able to swipe through them. So what I'm going to do is first start with this first one here. I'm just going to position it in the middle of the screen to make things easier. And we can see I created this as like a selected state. I just gave it this purple border here. So this is the one that like you're currently on. So if you hit read this book, it would be that book, this, not the end of the world. But we want the user to know that there's some content behind there, right? So I'm going to put this in as well, left bracket to send it to the back. And then I'm going to just change the rotation a little bit. We'll move it sort of down here. And I also think it would be nice if the ones that weren't fully in focus were a little bit of a lower opacity. So I'm going to go over here and instead of 100, we'll do 50, or even it's a little too light. Let's do 70. And then I'm going to do -8 here. Okay, so here's one frame. Now we're going to have to prototype along 4 different frames. So what we're going to do is copy and paste these onto this next one, and then we'll make our changes, right? So we're going to get rid of this border here. I'm just going to hide it with that eye icon there. Now I'm going to make this one 70% opacity. And I'm going to send it to the back. And I'm going to turn it 8 pixels and kind of move it down here like this. And then we'll give this 0 rotation, bring it up to 100, center it perfectly, and then we'll turn on that stroke there. Okay, so that's looking good, but we also need another title behind it, right? So we're gonna grab this one and we're gonna do roughly the same thing. We're gonna send it to the back, -8. See how that looks. Now I don't like how these are overlapping, so I'm gonna have to scooch these like that and like that. Scooch this one too. Okay, that's better. And then we'll make this again 70. That looks good. Then I'm going to select all of these and paste them on here, and we're just going to do the same thing. I'm going to do 8. We'll position it kind of like exactly where this one was. We can get rid of that one underneath it. Hide the border, 70% opacity. Bring this one front and center. 100% opacity with the border. And then we're going to need, oops, this guy, -8. Send it to the back. And -70% opacity. Okay, now we just need to do this one more time, copy and paste 8. Have that overlap. Get rid of the one underneath. Give it that sort of unselected state. I could have made these a component and made my life easier, but for the sake of this example, I did not do that. So you can definitely do that and just have different states for these. That would be the smart thing to do. So now we'll hop into prototype mode and we're going to put a drag transition on these. So we'll start with the first one. When you drag on here, we want it to go to this frame here. So let's call this flow card swiping. Okay, so we'll change this to on drag. We'll do smart animate, and ease out is probably good, but let's do 300 milliseconds. We'll have to see what that looks like. Okay, let's just preview that one to make sure that that timing is good. Okay, yeah, that should be good. Even like a tad bit faster might be good. Okay, cool. So then we're just going to do the same thing. So when we drag on this, drag smart animate 200 milliseconds. Also, if we drag the other way, we want to go back to the other side. So we need to do it both directions. So if we drag backwards, go that way. If we drag forwards, we'll go this way. And this one we can only drag backwards. Okay, let's see how this looks. Okay, so I'm gonna click and drag backwards and forwards. There you go. And there is the card swiping animation. You could also use this to create like a dating app and have the profiles kind of swipe back and forth like that. That could be another cool way to use this technique. Okay, this is the text animation that I'm going to show you how to do in this example. And like all of these, you can really get creative with them and really do any type of text or shape. You can do different sort of colors and layers and spacing with it, and it can come out completely differently. But I'm going to show you this example and you can kind of run with it. So what we're going to need to do first is take this layer and duplicate it and make all of the different colors that we want to use. So I have the colors that I like over here. So I'm just going to duplicate this, change this color. Okay, now that we have all of these, I want to name them so that I know which is which. So this is the order I want them in. So I'm going to do text 1, text 2, 3, 4, and 5. That way I know the order of them. Okay, then we'll reorder them in the layers panel here. And I'm going to stack them on top of each other. So right now they're just perfectly on top of each other in order, as we can see from the layers panel here. And we're also going to center this perfectly on our frame here. Okay, so before we go any further, I'm going to duplicate this because we're going to need 2 different frames to animate back and forth for this animation. So we'll call this one state 2 and we'll bring the slider almost all the way to the right side. This is how you can basically control this animation. Okay, so now I'm going to select on all of these except for the top layer because I just want to move them incrementally. So I'm going to move this one down 4 pixels, 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the left 4 pixels, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to deselect text layer number 2 and do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Same with number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now just number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to do something similar, but with the rotation. So I'm going to go up here to the rotation and we're going to do -2. Now I'm going to do this incrementally. So I'm going to do number 1 is not going to have any rotation. Number 2 is going to have -2 rotation. Number 3 is going to have -4. Number 4 is going to have -6. I'm going 2, 4, 6, 8. And -8. Okay, perfect. Now I'm just going to move this just a little bit. 4 pixels to the right and 4 pixels up. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing on this side, but opposite. So I'm just selecting all of these. We'll do the rotation first. So instead of -2, we're going to do 2, 4, 6, 8. And now we're going to go up and to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Deselect the top layer. 4 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, perfect. So now we have these different sort of orientations of these layers, and now we can actually animate them. So we're going to do, since this is our slider, we're going to put the drag trigger right on there. And so we're going to say on drag, smart animate to state number 2. And let's try ease in and out and we'll see what that looks like. We'll have to play around. But then we're going to want to do the same thing over here. On drag, smart animate, ease in and out. Oh, let's make this like 800 milliseconds because I think we want you to really be able to like see this animation happen. Okay. There we go. How cool is that? So this one's kind of subtle. You could make one that literally takes up the whole screen. You could make the text actually grow as it, rotates and things like that. I think this is pretty cool though. Okay, now for this last one. This is what I want it to look like. I want for this to be one of those sort of landing pages where the headline changes words to really convey sort of what the website is all about and what the service is all about. So that is what we're going to do for this, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So we have sort of our skeleton right here, and I decided that I want to have the word design actually switch from design to coding to copywriting to data analytics. And I also want to make it really stand out. So I put it in this sort of linear gradient, and that's just going to make that stand out and just look really nice on this purple background. What we have to do is separate these text boxes a little bit. So here's what I mean. We're going to have this on its own line. So I'm just going to cut that and paste it back in. And we also need to have for design and coding, copywriting, data analytics to be separated out. So I am going to double click on this so that we have a perfect bounding box here. I'm going to right align it so that when I get rid of design, the skills and fast don't actually move. So that's good for that. And now what I want to do is create a sort of frame that is only going to show this first word. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to frame this whole thing. So I'm going to do Option Command G to frame it. So we can see what the line height of these are and go based off of that. This is 104 pixels tall. So I'm going to make this frame 104 pixels tall. And we'll just kind of make sure that's centered within it. Okay, that should be good. And I'm going to right align this as well because since it's on the very left of this line, we're going to want for the right edge to always line up perfectly with this skills word. Okay, so that's good. And then we can also, oops, make this, we can scooch this over until it is perfectly aligned here, and then decrease that size there. Perfect. So now if I roll over this, I can see that this frame is the perfect height for one of these words and the perfect length for the longest word that we're going to have in here. So I'm going to call this switching words here. And then you can see if we do clip content, it's going to clip the rest of that content, but I do want to see it for now. So I'm going to make this a component, Option Command K. And we're going to make this variant a state, and this one is going to be called design. We're going to need to have, let's clip these actually before I make another one. Clip content. Okay, we'll call this one coding. This one, copywriting, and this one, data analytics. And then I'm just going to double click in here so that I am selected on this text box. And I am going to go up just enough so that it is perfectly lined up here with just the coding. Okay. So now we're going to take just one of these instances and I am going to line it up here with this. So in order for this to look most natural, once this turns from design to, let's say, data analytics, we want for this to center. So to do that, what we're going to need to do is first, we're going to need to make these only take up as much room as they truly need. So I'm going to pin these to the top right. So once all of the text inside of these is pinned to the right, now I can actually decrease the size of this box here just so that it fits each word perfectly. Okay, it already fits data analytics perfectly. Okay, cool. So now when we bring in one of these layers here, just make sure it is perfectly lined up with this. Okay, and you can see we have a little bit of room for improvement here. So we need to move design down a little bit. Okay, perfect. Now these line up perfectly. And I'm going to group these together in an auto layout. So I'm just going to select both of them and do auto layout. And we're going to want these to center together here. And we'll want it to hug the contents. So that if we center this perfectly on the screen, then we can turn this into data analytics. And it is going to grow sort of from the center. Copywriting, coding, see how this really adapts and makes that whole line centered. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so let's change this back to design. And now I'm going to set up a smart animate on these so that we don't have to have multiple frames of this actual website. We can just set this up on the word level, I guess. So I'm going to go into prototype mode and I am going to add an arrow from design down to coding. We're going to do on delay or after delay. So after, let's try 1000 milliseconds, we're going to change it from design to coding and it's going to smart animate. And I think that can happen pretty quick, maybe 200 milliseconds and just ease out. That might be nice. Okay, let's just preview that and see what that looks like before we do the rest. Yeah, that looks good. I think we might want to do a bit more of a delay though. So I'm going to go in here and we'll do 1500 milliseconds. And now I'm just going to do the same exact thing here, 1500 and 200. After delay, 1500, oops, and 200. And then from data analytics, we'll go back up to design. After delay, 1500 and 200. Okay, now let's take a look. Awesome. I think that looks really good. I think it might look a little bit more natural if we switch up this order though. Like I don't like how it just goes from small to big and then back to small. So I'm just going to switch up this order a little bit. So we'll go from design to copywriting. From copywriting to coding, from coding to data analytics, and data analytics back to design. Okay, let's see if that looks better. There we go. I think that looks better. All right, and that is the last animation. Like the other ones, you can really put your own spin on this and use some different effects and all of that to use this technique for your own project. If you want to go deeper with Figma and learn how to create a fully responsive e-commerce website, then make sure you check out my course linked in the description box below. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed creating these 4 animations with me, and I'll see you in a future video. Bye!